What's up, guys? Oh, the lights aren't on. Sorry about that. Let me get set up properly. How's that looking? Can you see me? See what shadows here? Okay, I'm gonna do my best to get some decent lighting for you guys. Sorry it's been so long. There's a lot going on in the home life. I've made the puppy sliding proof area. Thank God he's walking again. He finished his medication, so we're doing good with that. I'll be doing some other live streams to keep you up to date with other things coming up. Make sure you guys join the Discord if you want to keep in touch with me. And of course, now he's going to wake up. No, okay. I tried to take him out and he refused to get up. Okay, so today we're going to go over the basic tracking of the foot and the knee in Tai Chi and talk about knee injuries and knee pain and stuff in Tai Chi, because I know a lot of practitioners have this issue. And forgive me, it's been a couple of years since I taught anatomy and physiology, maybe 10 years. So I'll do my best to remember things properly. So it'll be a good review for me also. All right. So first question was, how do you deal with the feet in Tai Chi? Okay, let me take my shoes off for this. There's different methods, and I've gone over this in many of my videos, but I haven't made a video specifically about this. It's probably a good reference point for everybody. Okay. Some of the Chen stylists, they say you should grab the floor. There's a lot of different methods, but for me, the Yang style that I've been practicing, the karate that I practice is exactly the same thing. We don't actually grip the floor with our feet. We allow the feet to do its job naturally. So what you want to think is just this thing like a wet noodle. Okay? You want your feet to be placed completely relaxed. There's two sayings in Chinese, I don't know what I say in Chinese, but one is train like a lion, sleep like a dog, and walk sprightly like a pigeon. The other one is to step like a cat. So what does walk sprightly like a pigeon, step like a cat mean? Right? So generally what they're saying is to keep your weight, even though you're rooted, you shouldn't be settled down completely. So you want to be having both a light step, but a well-placed rooted step, right? And I think that a lot of the issues come from people don't worry about sinking in sun and sinking in sun and sinking in sun. Next thing you know, you're just dropping. And I always say this in my method: your head is suspended from the string. I don't even think it's being pulled up to the North Star. There's two strings. One is on your crown, and one is right in the back of your thoracic spine, where the little hump starts. And you want to feel like you're getting pulled up and then drop down, so that the space in your heart, you feel a separation. Okay, so this is one thing I think is very important before you even talk about the foot placement, because if you don't have the separation and the stretch, you're going to have inconsistent or erroneous pressure laying down. The foot's going to cause problems. So avoid this excessive, overly sinking, overly sun thing. Okay? You want to think that you're being pulled up and the body is falling down and you're almost floating. And you get the sensation that your hip is floating, right? So when you do this correctly, if I was you to sink, and sun, my hip is going to be overly compressed and it starts to feel tight, right? So this double heavy compression, everything going down, it makes the femur acetabulum, it gets set in, and then your sacrum can't move, and everything feels like you're just stuck. But if you pull this up, you start to notice that your hip frees. Okay? And you can try this. Okay, so now we get that prerequisite going to the foot. Now, William Chen, before I even saw William Chen, I came up with the positive negative ground theory, where this is from my karate training, where the foot, this toe is positive, this is negative, this is ground. So when I put a 3-prong outlet, in America we have these 3-prong outlets, and before in the 80s we didn't have 3, we only had 2. And we used to break that bottom one off and it would still work. That's the ground. So you don't actually need a ground to have a functional foot. So when I'm fighting, especially the karate that I do, it looks like my feet are on the ground, but they're not. Okay? So my heel is skimming the ground, and William Chen talks about this in his latest stuff. You're saying that you have 3 nails, and each one of them has a different function, okay? But basically, to make it simple, it's only your big toe and the ball of the foot that really make the foot functional. Okay? The heel creates a complete circuit. So I've gone over this in several videos, but this is important to know. I want my foot to just flap down on the floor and just melt in. Okay? Any tension and thing like that happens should be natural and should be subconscious. I don't want, in my system, anybody doing anything with the feet. The reason for that is because the fascial system, your tendons in your foot are actually connected here. So that when I look with my eyes, there's a tension that starts to happen where my body wants to get ready to move in that direction. You may not sense it at a low level, but when you get to higher levels in Tai Chi practice, you get the interoception down, you will feel, when you move your eye, you feel your foot. I know this sounds weird, but people who've trained a very long time understand what I mean by interoception, being able to feel small things in the body and changes. So, most important is that this is the active part of the foot, this is the inactive part of the foot, okay? This is where I want to have my connection, the big toe, the ball, and the heel. However, these may be my connection points, don't make fun of my big feet, okay? This is my connection point, this is a connection point, this is a connection point. However, my balance is here. So I want my balance to be in this zone, and I want it to flux. And I went over this in the Tai Chi What Is Not Taught video, okay? So your balance point is not a perfect position. It's actually a flux point. And why in the old traditional styles, you'll see them do this sway thing before they start. They start like this, and then they'll sway. I've gone over this also. This is to teach you that sensual equilibrium is a flux point. It's not actually a legitimate fixed position. Okay? So when you step, there's two methods of stepping. In karate, in the old styles, we step, it's almost a mud step. Okay? So in Bhagavad, they call it mud stepping, where I'm going to slide, put my toe down, put my ball down, put my heel down. And this is how we step in all directions. The reason for that is because in kicking styles, my heel can't be on the ground until the moment of impact, because if I do that, it's going to torque my knee. So I need to be able to pivot without getting my knee stuck. So when that heel goes down, recognize that that heel posting is where you'll get torsion on the knee. Okay, so it's a very important thing to understand that, to put that heel all the way in. And if you're going to use the heel, you have to be able to rotate from the top of the head. So that when the knee's tracking, you see how that knee is staying in line? So you have the femur and the shin here. They're staying in line. I don't want this to happen, because this is when you start to have medial lateral knee pain. Okay, so that's when we call knee tracking. Their knee basically functions like this. Here is your shin, here is your knee. It doesn't actually just roll, it kind of like hops over, okay? It's not meant to do anything else. It's a one-way door hinge, and it wants to slide like this. You have, now I know it's a little crazy here. I hope that was enough with the foot. So the way your knee works is this like weird sliding hinge thing that rocks over kind of like this. And when you have knee pain, for most of the Tai Chi people, Beatriz specifically, right? Hey, what's up, dude? So when you have knee pain, right? If it's outside the knee, where it's like you feel in the front of the foot, front of the knee and the side of the knee, usually this is from the tendons being over tight, or from the tracking of the knee being displaced from the ankle and the hip. The knee's job is only to do this. That's all it does. So if it does something else, because what the ankle and the hip are doing, it's going to cause torsion, and then you're going to have an imbalance. Okay? And that's when you start to feel pain in weird places. So if you start to feel pain in the front of the knee by the patella, right? So this little thing is a tibial tuberosity, this little bone here. You have the quadriceps, and then they run over to the patella here, and then they have another tendon, the patella tendon, I think it is. And the way I look at it, it is actually one unit. Okay? So this quadricep tendon, as it hits the patella and it runs into the patella tendon and it connects here, they function as one piece. You know what I'm saying? Because when I pull on this, it wants to do this. Right? So if you're feeling like tendons, like, you know, tension in the front of the knee, first thing I would tell you to do is make sure you're rolling out your quads, get the exercise out of your quads, and then now we're going to go into your position and placement of the foot and where the weight is. So I'm going to segue into this. Now we do have a rule where the, can you see my feet? Okay. So the knee shouldn't pass the big toe, okay? When the ankle's flat on the floor. Can I go past it? Yes, I can, okay? However, whenever you work at the extreme range of motion is when bad things happen. So yes, I can do this and I can train as a stretch. But when I'm fighting form, I don't want, this is my limit. There's nothing, I don't gain anything by going past this. So what I would tell people is to use the toenail or the knuckle and stop there. So that's going to do is to keep your weight so it's more central to the calf and the bones of the calf, the tibial, and whatever. So I go like that, fine. I also want to make sure that my toe, the space between this and here is where my knee tracks to. So I want this bone to be in between those toes. Okay? So that's where we're going to have a lot of the issues with the pain that comes in the front of the knee. Is usually from that patella tendon and the quadricep tendon running across. And it's either being loaded too much or loaded in a bad way or stretched too far. So if you're feeling pain here, roll the quad, bring the weight slightly back, and then put the weight so that's more towards the arch of the foot. Another thing you can do is reciprocal inhibition, which is basically a lot of the times the brain is sending a signal to the front more than the back. It's not that the back side, your posterior chain is weaker, it's that the signals are getting there. The brain's just not telling it, it's giving this 100 and this 0, okay? So one really easy exercise you can do before you start working out, if I have something I can stand on, what can I use here? Let's try this. This will work. Okay. So, hopefully this will work. I'm going to bust my ass on camera. Okay, just a simple calf raise, but you want to do it where you're starting from a negative and going to a positive position. Okay? All the way down from the negative point, and then as far as you can go down, and then raise all the way up. Okay? So you're going to do this to activate the hammies before you start in your calves. Give it some extra signals and say, hey, dude, wake up. Okay? Next one you can do is the back leg raise with the toes down, hold the table or wall, and just lift your leg up like this until you feel your glutes and your Q-bell on your back tighten up a little bit. You'll feel the back of the other leg and then switch. Do that a couple of times, and what that'll do is trick the brain to send the excess signal to the back and release some pressure in the front. Now, for lateral pain, right, when you're on the outside, you have like, you know, the, what's it called? Lateral coagulate tendon and medial tendon. I try to remember, guys, it's been so many years I had to teach this shit. And then you have the two meniscus, the lateral and medial. So when you have this flappy thing, you have two little discs underneath that could provide like some kind of cushiony stuff. And then you have a main tendon going to the front, like this. And then you have two tendons on the side, like this. And this is the main function of how your knee works in the front and the back. And then in the back, you have the plantar tendon, I think it is, that runs up the back and behind the kneecap. Okay? So there's one tendon that goes all the way from your foot, all the way inserts inside here. So these are generally the places where people will start to feel like acute pain, basically like, you know, overuse injury, right? It's not like, you know, oh, this feels sore, or I'm doing the form and this starts to feel painful. This is usually misalignments, and especially if you're doing it and then you stop doing that activity and then it goes away. What you're really worried about is when you feel inside, okay? You can have referred pain from having like excess tension that feels like it's inside, but you'll know. You'll know when it's inside, when things inside sound like they're grinding and not doing its job. You're gonna know real fast, okay guys? So, again, most of the lateral stuff tends to be because your tracking is off. So most important is keep this behind the toenail and keep it between these two toes. This toe right here, see the second toe, is a safe bet, okay? And when you do the form that way, it makes a lot of sense. If your stance is an inappropriate width, you should be at the shoulder and hip girdle. So that my feet, you can see I have the 3 pillars. So I have this pillar here, this pillar here, this pillar here. If I deviate from this 3-pillar method, what tends to happen, if I'm too wide, I'm going to have pressure on the medial border. If I'm too narrow, I'm going to start to evert and go to my lateral border, right? Doing this over time repeatedly causes stress in the tendons, and if there's impact or grinding involved, you start to get meniscus tears. Okay? So, following those principles in the geometry, and I always say this to my students, geometry is king, timing is queen, and conditioning is the bastard love child. Your geometry must come first, okay? If you're having a problem, always go back to the base geometry and always start from the foot and track up. Whenever you have an injury or a pain response from motion on a joint, look at the neighbor. So we call it the bad neighbor theory. First thing someone tells me I have a knee problem, I ask them about the ankle and the hip. Why? Because the knee's job is to do one thing, right? And it's usually the noisy neighbor that's doing something that makes this guy get aggravated, right? The way you put your foot down, the way you put the weight in, and how you settle is usually, it's not allowing the force, the energy, or the chi to track and get to the ground path. So it wants to go out the point of least resistance. Whether it's a tendon issue or a bone issue, meniscus tears, it really comes down to when I put my weight and momentum, there's an energy transfer that wants to get grounded out and zeroed out by the floor. If it doesn't get there because there's a kink in the line, it will go out the path of least resistance. So if I have a wave of my energy, my body's mass is going to the ground in a controlled fall, and this alignment's off, what's going to happen? The linear path of the energy is going to go this way. So it's not going to make it to the ground through my bone, it's going to make it through the ground outside through the path of least resistance. That's where bad things happen. So keeping the structural integrity and your base geometry correct is the most important thing in the first place to start. Now, going over the foot placement, going over the knee thing, going over that exercise. I think that's the most important points. Let me think of anything else I missed here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask while I'm still here. Okay, I think that's pretty good. 1 second, guys, sorry. It's a last minute thing. I'm trying to squeeze a video in for my friend here. I was saying she has some problems. But, yeah, what else would there be? Oh, okay. When you're doing the form, the tendency is to be quad dominant, right? And in the beginning, you should feel your quads burning because they're not used to doing this loading. However, if you're doing the form correctly, you should be loading posterior and then anterior. It shouldn't just be the quads. If that's what you're feeling, your weight is too far forward on your feet. So again, go back to where is my weight placement? So if I'm sitting in the standing posture, right, and I start to feel like, I'm sitting down, my knees, my quads burning, my knees are probably too far forward of my feet. My weight is probably too far forward. So I'm going to do sit back, and now I should feel the burning come up my leg more towards here rather than down here. I don't want to feel the tension in this triangle here. They call this VMO. There's a little, can you see that? Jesus, shouldn't move the camera. Sorry about that, guys. So there's a little triangle here. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, I'm kind of like sloppy right now. But most of the tension will end up being placed here, and then it's supposed to get pushed out through the front of the knee. I want to feel in the muscle belly. So I want to back it up and change my hip position and my weight towards the heel so I can get that tension to start coming back up the leg. Okay? So it's more important about where you're feeling that weight distribution and how to realign it. That should solve most of your problems. Okay? I hope this helps. Thanks for stopping by. And I'll see you guys soon. Any questions, comments, accusations, jump into Discord. It's much easier to find me there. And check out BeatrizFerraz channel. She's like a pretty cool chick and some nice videos there, right guys? So good luck. See you guys soon.